topics, and today we're going to begin part one on the 7 traits of a dynamic swing. So buckle up, get ready to go. We're going to get underway. There are so many good pieces in this that this was already a predetermined 2-part set. And when we get into this, what I want to let us know is my belief when we get into this is that I'm attempting to be 100% on time and 100% with 100% efficiency. That is my ultimate goal. My belief is that might happen once out of every 350 swings just due to so many parameters that are going on. So as we get into this today, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm going to draw from some slides that I had done from a previous presentation. So I'll be going back and forth a little bit just to help set me up. And as such, let's get underway and let's don't waste any more of your time. So here we go. 7 traits to a dynamic swing. Okay. And let's see. Oh, that was full. There you go. Okay. Let me head back over here to our slideshow and we'll begin. So where I want to begin with what I want to begin with here today is knowing that probably just about everything that we've ever taught your sons and your daughters has probably been wrong. So in a sense that we treat the physical symptoms way more than the cause. And as you are taking your actionable items over these next 3 weeks, what I want to make sure that you understand is it's not how to. There's not a whole lot of how to, and that begins with the first secret, and that was knowing that everything that you have probably learned has probably been wrong. So what I mean by that is there are certain things that you want to learn to control what you can control, and you can control the how. You know, we talked about Barney and imagination and the 3 instructors and such. But you can control your swing line. You can control what you want that ball shape to look like once you've made it. You can control the line drive, the ground ball, the fly ball. You can control the when of it. By the use of the right now. We talked about that early on, the 2 magic words, the 3 magic words, load right now. You can control the what, hunting instead of reacting. What is the shape of the pitch you're looking for? Where's the location of that pitch you're looking for? What is the timing of that particular fastball or that particular changeup or that particular curveball? You can control your thoughts. You know, what are you feeling today? You can control that. Oh man, this guy is big. I'm 0 for 2 off this guy. I've struck out 3 times. This is just another one of those days. But you can control those thoughts. You can control your feelings. You can control the awareness of how you are moving. So all of that is very controllable. And then probably the other part of that is creating realistic goals. What does that mean to create realistic goals? And, you know, along those lines, you know, hitting 400 is probably not being realistic. Probably better would be, oh, I'm sorry here. I'm trying to get me back there. There you go. Probably better, you know, creating realistic goals. Well, what we're talking about there is, can I, you know, I can control what pitch selection I have. I can control my swing. So I want to give out my A-level swing each and every time. I can control how I am feeling, my thoughts at that moment in time. All of those things I can control. Realistically, you know, can I put my best swing on the pitch that I am hunting? I don't control if I hit the ball directly into a ball glove or not. So, you know, that in and of itself is probably a misleading tactic at best. So, you know, I just want you to be aware of that. So we're talking about creating realistic goals. So I'm working my way back into my slides here, folks. And as we get there, what we're going to talk about, here we go. I think I have it. and let's get to it. So the first trait that I want to talk about, these things that we can control, this is what I want to work with when I'm taking my batting practice, when I'm training. It's not just taking mindless swings without regard to how I'm moving. I want to be, again, I want to be very deliberate. And the first thing that I want to do, I want to be aware, the first trait that we are aware of is what we would call stretch and loading. And in an earlier time, I would have called that elasticity. But through some good work by Joey Myers along with Perry Husband, we now start talking about stretch and loading. And this is a picture of Chris Davis as such. And what we're talking about, this is the quintessential, we call it the my drill here in the building, but this is the quintessential my drill. As we look, we see that, if you were the pitcher, you'd probably be getting a hint of Chris Davis's number on his backside. We see this lead arm stretch. We see this stretch. Look at the uniform being tugged along his sling here, going across his lower ab into the upper areas. It's coming off of his left leg. We see he's in a balanced position. He's centered over the ball. That is creating leverage. So this is a pretty good look at it. So in my drilling, this is one of the areas that we start to work with. We see the ball bat in the window, as Mike Ryan would say. We call it, Joey would call it shining the flashlight. We've got wrists in great position, slightly under 90. They're degrees, not that we're ever taking a protractor out, but these are all feels. These are all things I have awareness of. These are all intents that I might have on a particular swing. So the intent of that swing may not be to drive the baseball on that particular swing. Maybe, am I feeling myself getting into these positions? So stretch and loading. Second area that we get to would be leverage. And I think I pulled up a GIF here of Jose Altuve, and we see that leg kick of his. But what he does he is creating leverage. We see 27 completely, very similar to our stretch and load, but he's off the inside of the back foot. This is not the greatest angle to show, but this was the best one that I have, where we see that front leg kick. And I don't care if you have the front leg kick or not, but it certainly will help me. And I think what we would do if we were to look at players who have leg kicks, I think we would probably see that those leg kicks are different depending on the situation. Sometimes they're much more aggressive because that is the player's mindset on a particular pitch. Sometimes they're not as aggressive. They're have a little movement. In fact, somewhere along the line here, I do have other photos of Altuve where that foot barely comes off the ground. So it just depends on what a hitter is thinking at a particular point in time. But that leverage is off the back foot. I'm down through the ankle again on that back foot, trying to allow that hip to rotate. Again, the swing is going to begin not in the feet, but in the thoracic area, right between Altuve and his number, his name written on his back of his shirt, and his number, and that thoracic area, and starts to act like a gigantic spring, and then it unwinds, and that's what we're trying to do. Again, I want to have that feeling, and that is what we would call leveraging off that backside. And the third trait that we would have is what we refer to as absorption in the lead arm lockout. And excuse me, hey, two things. Number one, I just realized I didn't hook up my microphone, so I apologize for that. Number two, I'm drinking my cup of coffee here early this morning, so I apologize to you. The third item is the one that we draw a lot of issues with. It's the lead arm lockout, and I just quickly went and just pulled this picture up of Chris Davis. But in all honesty, he's actually beat here a little bit because we start to see an arc in his back, and that lead arm's not as extended as it should be. But when we're talking lead arm extension, we're talking about being as strong as possible when I get to the ball, as strong as possible. And, this whole idea, and, I started out, we talked about 100, 100. Well, this is where I'm referring to. Think of that lead arm. What I want you to imagine is just a hose with water running through it. And we know that every time we kink the hose, we limit the flow of the water, or we actually absolutely stop it. Well, think of your body as a hose. Think of your body as a hose, and I'm just trying to get back up here. So think of your body as a hose, and every time that we kink it, so I take this lead arm. I'm going to go full here if I can. And we take this lead arm and we start to pull it in. Well, we're kinking. We're kinking our swing at that moment. And yet this is how we'll teach kids. So I come from 100 down to 85% efficiency. And now when I get fooled and I pull that in even more, I start to drop even further. I'll drop down to 70, 75%. So this year, I think Giancarlo Stanton had the highest exit velocity, somewhere around 122. So that's what we know he can do on a really nice day. His average velocity was around 93. So when I just do a quick mathematical division of that, we see that Giancarlo basically hit around 75% of his ability. And I go to Giancarlo only because with his closed stance, he's more likely to get locked out than any other hitter. So Giancarlo at 75%. Well, what was Giancarlo be like if he was at 90%? And, as a hitter, I think that's what I'm trying to do. I'm always trying to get somewhere in that mid 80s to 90% capability. From an efficiency standpoint. Okay, so again, if I'm a hose, I pull this arm in, I start to lose energy. I will leak energy out of every bend in a joint. Okay, and there are some natural bends that happen. There are some bends in my hips. If I don't have, if I'm bent excessively at the knees or such. So a lot of times that begins to happen on its own. So I keep popping the wrong button here, gang. Sorry about that. So let's get back to where we're at. So that was trait number 3. It's the lead arm lockout. We're always working on lead arm lockouts, and that would lead to another trait that we'll get to here tomorrow. But we talk about absorption as well. But and so we do work on that. Again, also in this photo, what I wanted to mention was just the very strong position of Mr. Davis's right arm in that 90-degree position, and the strong hand placements there. And we can see where he is at here is sort of leading into our next item, and that is forward momentum. And forward momentum is the absence of squashing the bug, or I call it spinning or squatting in place. In my area, they have a term called squishing the bug, and I think it's like anything; it takes on a life of its own, and I'm not sure. My belief is that Dusty Baker coined the term, but I don't think he meant it in that regard, as though we were literally pushing down with the ball of our foot and stepping on a bug. I think he was probably just referring to the idea of having that foot rotate forward, but the foot isn't necessarily the main item here. It's going to follow what the hips are going to do. Okay. Do I use my legs when I hit? Yes, absolutely. Is it the main piece when I begin my swing? Absolutely not. And so it will help me, but the legs that back foot will follow what the hips are doing. And what we have here, I believe I have Andrew McCutcheon. And we'll let him go here. And what we're going to talk about is forward momentum, the ability to get forward. And as we go here in slow motion, we can see that Andrew gets into his stretch, but notice his move forward. We actually see the back foot come off the ground. That's the recoil of a well-driven back hip, and it's just going to pull it off the ground. So forward momentum. Do I have forward momentum in my swing? Is my back heel moving directly to the pitcher? And I'm talking about the outside of the back heel. If I'm a right-handed hitter, it would be my right foot. Am I pulling my big toe a little bit? Let me hit this again, so you understand what I'm talking about here. Fortunately, I'm not pointing at that. But if I can pull my big toe forward, does my foot come up off the ground? as a result of a good swing. You know, so, but we can see Andrew has controlled the middle of his body. He's dropped well. He's down on the front foot completely. So he's not walking into his toe down. So foot plant from above, as Franz Bosch would ask us to do. And again, I just want to go back. I'll show you one more time. We're going to look at Andrew here in slow motion. And we'll see that back foot moving forward momentum into the ball, quintessential second law of motion. When I take my force and direct it, place it in the direction of the action with the ball coming towards me, I will be at my strongest, and that is what has happened there. So again, if you would be so kind as to help me here again today, please share or comment or hit the like button if you like today's topic. Again, we got through the first 4 traits of our 7 traits to a dynamic swing. We'll be back tomorrow with part 2 of that. If you thought it was worthwhile, please share it, comment it, like on it, send your questions or concerns, your thoughts, your points of view. Just drop those in the comments. I'll be glad to get back and answer those, and we'll go from there. So that's all for today. That's a quick take here on the ideas, the things that we're trying to do with our hitters, how I'm trying to allow them to take control of their swings, to develop their swings. And so again, from an actionable standpoint, these are the things that we're looking at. So try to work those into what you're doing at home, and we'll get back at it. We'll finish off tomorrow with part 2 of this series here on the 7 traits to a dynamic hitter. Hey, everybody, have a good day. I'll see you right back here again tomorrow. Take care.